Now we're going to factor trinomials. There are two types. Trinomials that start with a coefficient of 1, and of course trinomials other than 1. So right now, this is a trinomial, and we don't see a coefficient, so 1 is understood. These are the easy ones. So here we go. What I'm looking for is two factors that multiply together when I FOIL that'll give me this. So I'm going to have two sets of parentheses. I need two quantities that multiply together to give me x squared. I only have one choice, x and x. So now what's really important are the signs. I look at the sign of the third term. If I have a plus when I multiply two things and get a plus, that means I'm going to have two like signs, because two like signs when I multiply will give me a plus. So it means these have to be alike. It's either two positives or two negatives. How I know which one? It's a two-step process. I look to the middle term. In this case, I have to have plus plus. Now, I need two numbers that multiply together that give me 8. But remember, when we FOIL, we got to deal with outers and inners. So here's the question. I write down my factors of 8. I have 1 times 8 or 2 times 4. And I say to myself, which pair, if I add or subtract, do I get a 9? 1 and 8 or 2 and 4? It's got to be 1 and 8. Then I should check by FOIL. If I check by FOIL and I multiply my first, I get x squared. I multiply my outers, I get plus 8x. I multiply my inners, I get plus 1x. I multiply my last, I get 8. So I do get x squared plus 9x plus 8. All right, let's try one more. Let's say I have x squared plus 7x plus 6. I want two quantities that multiply together. When I FOIL, I'll end up with x squared plus 7x plus 6. So I'm going to have x and x. Next step, the signs are key. I look at the sign of my third term. A plus means the signs in my answer are the same, either plus plus or minus minus. How do I know? I look to the middle term. No matter what happens, this has to be plus plus. Now I want two numbers that multiply together that give me 6. So my possibilities are 1 times 6 or 2 times 3. I ask myself one question. Which pair, if I add or subtract, do I get a 7? It's got to be 1 and 6. Then I should check to FOIL. X times x is x squared. My outers, I get plus 6x. I multiply my inners, I get plus 1x. I multiply my last, I get plus 6. Outers and inners combine. So I do get x squared plus 7x plus 6. All right, now let's just try one a little different. Let's say I have x squared minus 7x plus 12. So now I have a minus in the middle. So here we go. I want two sets of parentheses that multiply together that give me this. I'm going to have x and x. So now I look at the sign of my third term. It's still a plus. So that means the signs in my answer are the same. So this means same in answer. So it's the same signs in answer, which means plus plus or minus minus. I look to the middle. No matter what happens, this one has to be minus minus. I write down my factors of 12. I've got 1 times 12, 2 times 6, or 3 times 4. I ask the same question. which pair do I add or subtract to get a 7? It's got to be 3 and 4. I could check by FOIL. X times x is x squared. Minus 4x minus 3x will give me minus 7x. I get plus 12. We'll do one more. Let's say I have x squared minus 10x plus 16. I set up my two sets of parentheses. I have x and x. Next thing you look at is the sign of the third term. It's still a plus. That means the signs in my answer are the same, either plus plus or minus minus. I look to the middle. This has to be minus minus. I write down my factors of 16. I've got 1 times 16, 2 times 8. I've got 4 times 4. So now I go, which pair, if I add or subtract, do I get a 10? It's got to be 8 and 2. And if I check by FOIL, x times x is x squared. Minus 2x minus 8x will give me minus 10x. I get plus 16. Perfect. Just a couple more. So now, let's say I have one like this. X squared minus x minus 12. For the first time, we have a minus in the third term. I set up my two sets of parentheses. I have x, x, but now I have a minus in the last term. When I multiply two things in algebra, in order to get a minus, the signs have to be different. So when I see a minus here, it means different signs in answer. So, different, I don't have to look to the middle, because different is just different. I write my factors of 12. 1 times 12, 2 times 6, 3 times 4. I ask the same question. Which pair? Now if you notice, there's no number there. So a 1 is understood. So my question is, which pair, if I add or subtract, do I get a 1? It's got to be 4 and 3. But now it matters where I put it. I want to get a minus 1. So my question is, where do I put the 4 and where do I put the 3 so I get minus 1? Well, when I combine like terms, which is addition and subtraction, we subtract, take the sign of the larger. So I'd have to put the 4 here and the 3 here, because my minus 4x and my plus 3x will give me that minus x in the middle. So I do get x squared minus x minus 12. Hi, I just want to continue with factoring trinomials with a leading coefficient of 1. Let's say I have one like this. X squared plus 7xy minus 8y squared. I factor. I get x, x. I see my sign. A minus means the signs are different. So I have plus minus. I see this one's a little different because I have an extra letter here. I have a y squared. Our other ones didn't have a second variable. So I'm going to have to put a y in and a y in, because that'll give me my y squared. Then the process is the same. I write down my factors of 8. 1 times 8 or 2 times 4. I say which pair, if I add or subtract, do I get a 7? It's got to be 1 and 8. Now I could ask which pair do I add or subtract, and I want to get a positive 7. So I have to put my 1 and 8, but I got to put the larger digit, which is my 8, with the plus. I can put a 1 here, but 1s are understood. This way, when I check by FOIL, I get x times x, I get x squared. I multiply my outers, I get minus xy. I multiply my inners. I get plus 8xy. I multiply my lasts. I get negative because of unlike signs, 8y squared. Outers and inners combine. So I get x squared plus 7xy minus 8y squared. So the only difference is this had an extra letter. I just want to do one more thing. We're going to try these, but we're going to go a little quicker. So here we go. I want two sets of parentheses. I have x and x. I look at the sign of the third term. A plus tells me what? The answers are the same or different. That is what you have to know. A plus means same. A minus means different. This plus means same. It means in my answer, I have plus, plus, or minus, minus. How I know which one? I look to the middle. This has to be minus, minus. Then I ask which pairs. I write them down. I've got 1 times 18, 2 times 9, 3 times 6. I go, which pair, if I add or subtract, do I get 11? Has to be 9 and 2. And if I check by FOIL, it should be fine. All right, let's do this one. I'm going to have x, x. A plus means the signs in my answer are the same. Plus, plus, or minus, minus. So now, I look to the middle. That's how I know. This has to be plus, plus. I write down my factors of 5. I only have 1 times 5. So it's got to be 1 times 5. And if I add or subtract, I do get a 6. The order of the quantities does not matter. You can have x plus 1 times x plus 5, or x plus 5 times x plus 1. The order of the quantities doesn't matter. Here we go. I have x, x. A plus again means the signs are the same in my answer. Plus, plus, or minus, minus. I don't know which one. I look to the middle. This has to be minus, minus. I write down my factors of 9. 1 times 9, or 3 times 3. I go ask myself which pair, if I add or subtract, do I get a 10? It's got to be 1 and 9. And if I check by FOIL, I get x squared minus 9x minus 1x plus 9. I do get x squared minus 10x plus 9. The whole idea is whatever your factors are, they have to FOIL back to the original problem. All right, 2 more. I want to factor this one, x, x. All of a sudden I have a minus. A minus in my problem means the signs in my answer are different. So I have to have plus minus. I don't have to look to the middle because different is different. I write down my factors of 30. I have 1 times 30. I'm looking for a 7. 2 times 15. 3 times 10. 5 times 6. I ask which pair, if I add or subtract, do I get a 7? It's got to be 3 and 10. Have to put in my different signs. So now it matters, I have different signs where I put them. I take the bigger one, which is the 10, put it with the sign of the middle term. So I have 10 and 3. That way when I FOIL, I'll get x times x is x squared. I get minus 3x plus 10x negative 30. I do get x squared plus 7x minus 30. One more before I send you to connect. I factor x, x. A minus means different. So it's got to be, just to show you, order doesn't matter, I'll put minus plus. This has the extra y squared, I'll put y and y. I write my factors of 10. 1 times 10, 2 times 5. Which pair, if I add or subtract, am I going to get a 3? It's got to be 2 and 5. it matters where I put it. I want to get a minus 3. So I got to take the bigger one, which is the 5, and put it with the minus. So my 5 is here, my 2 is here. That way when I FOIL, x times x is x squared. My outers plus 2xy. My inners minus 5xy. My last minus 10y squared. Outers and inners combine. So I get x squared minus 3xy minus 10y squared. Good luck with Connect.